flew on my head. Something just flew on my head.
I think it was a concussion thought.
No,
There's nothing there.
something just went on my head.
He looks.
It did, something like right.
You're like the meteor smacking your head.
You know, I was.
We might have to put you in the sock just to protect yourself.
I could already know this area.
Thank you.
Hey, we have something for you.
I don't know what hurts though.
They said it.
Here's the TV. Mr. Partridge. Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God. Can I run to the bathroom real quick before we start?
Want to run.
Wait, can I go to the bathroom too?
Have I got a job?
Can I go to the bathroom too?
Huh?
Can I also go to the
Oh, it's crazy. Go!
You just tell us something.
All right, so we have a test coming up. Everybody loves Sasiba. Where's Chris? Sasiba. I gotta give up.
Yeah, because you're right. I literally told them. Julia and my sister say like that.
Does everyone have one? We're gonna get started right now.
And then right after
This
and like yes,
will
and
not.
I told them right after
Hey, it's open house tonight.
I didn't see that thing. I didn't even know about that. I learned how to eat ribs.
Really? Well, everything starts at No, it is open house. There's like an assembly like at 5:45 or something in the gym. And then
I can tell you. My parents are.
this is just a copy of the Declaration of Independence, 5:45, and then there's an hour they go around classes. I thought it was last night. I never paid attention. No, I didn't come back out, but I went home real fast, right upstairs, see if they got some stuff done, so I could come right back, and then I realized, okay, we have a test coming up, and let's make the test. No, I gave you a review list, right? But we have a lot of people asking today. I gave you a review list. Any questions on it? No questions? So I assume I guess we're ready for the test then.
I haven't even.
Please start looking at it. The last column and a half, there's not going to be any short IDs, but that's except for the Treaty of Paris of 1783. And I'll go through those events in the war on Thursday and Friday. But today's the biggie, and there will be a couple short IDs, maybe even 3 short IDs on the Declaration of Independence. So everyone has got the document out. Let's go take your notes out. And I sat down for a very important reason. And now I forgot. Megan is here. We can start. It's all yours. You can't go. You can?
I draw more
Matt is here. Am I so lucky? So first period has 30, and this one has 21. All right, so just a few notes and Danny DeVito. I just noticed I couldn't find anything, so I put a ribbon on here. Just hang it up there, I just couldn't find anything else. Well, actually, student gave me this. Yeah, it's so precious. But it's like hanging down now. Okay, am I the only one who sees the beauty in a yellow ribbon? All right. So we got to the Declaration of Independence. What day is Independence Day? July 2nd. But the document would not be ready for 2 more days. At Boston. Or right before the Tea Party. What were the patriots, what were they more upset about? Not the tax. What really made them upset? Yeah, that monopoly, because it's all about power and U.S. control. It's that monopoly. The monopoly they gave to what company? The East India Company, yeah. And what were the laws the British passed in response? We'll say it again. The coercive acts, or what did the colonists call them? Intolerable. What was that act that said New France, the people over there, now part of Britain, could speak French, Catholic, but also administered the Great Lakes region? What was that law? Infuriated the colonies. Yeah, the Quebec Act. And okay, the First Continental Congress, what were the resolves they agreed to? Where they kicked out the Massachusetts Assembly? The First Continental Congress? Someone said the Suck. And what city did they meet in?
Philadelphia.
Beautiful, Philadelphia. And the Second Continental Congress. They met after what battle? Battle, kind of a running battle.
Lexington is on board.
Yeah, Lexington and Concord. What? Second Continental Congress, what did they send to Britain that became a North? What did they call it?
The olive branch.
Yeah, that's an olive branch petition. And I think we got into the British left Boston, the King City disembowel. That's where we ended, right? Did we get to right there? And we got the Declaration of Independence, or they declared independence, but the document was not ready?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Right.
So, everyone write down the Declaration of Independence. And this is obviously a really, really, really big one. Really, really big. So, I have pins all over. Okay, I have 3 pins here. I have a pin here. Pin here. There are pins all over. All over where I just set them and walk away. I bring pins home. Somebody threw a pin out the hallway, 4th period, and it exploded. Are you accusing me of something?
We did it in here once.
But I made it landed on edge. So with that, don't blame me immediately. All right. So get down the Declaration of Independence. A couple things first off we have to get. This isn't law. This is not the Constitution. This is the philosophy, the justification. This is the founding document of what people wanted to be the United States. And I have to add something about this. This was a document that was meant to grow as time went. It wasn't like all of a sudden the U.S. was created and all the philosophy behind it, all the ideas of rights and equality would happen. This is a goal. This is, in a way, what we want to be as a country. Or for that matter, what other people can aspire to be as countries. This is the document that when people look into the United States, when they really look at it, besides do cultural things and things like that, this is something that they admire. The United States really can be proud of this. Citizens of the U.S. can be proud of the Declaration of Independence, especially as it grows. This is something like, wow, we as a nation have this founding document. And also, this would be a goal to achieve. When Abraham Lincoln would speak at the Gettysburg Address to try to justify the horrific costs of the Civil War, one of the things he would talk about was, we have to meet what they started, the founders wanted, their goals for the Declaration of Independence. That's what he talked about there. He started with 7 years ago. So the Declaration of Independence. But it's not law. The Constitution, except for the preamble, is dry law. This isn't. So 5 men were chosen. And the first 2 made complete sense to this day. Adams and Franklin. Franklin was probably the most famous man in the colonies, maybe one of the most famous men in the world by that time. Roger Sherman and Robert Livingston were well-known pamphleteers, brilliant writers, patriots of the cause, And then Thomas Jefferson, who I put in brown because I just put down my pen, but also I put him in brown because he's a little bit different. He was not at the First Continental Congress. He went to the second one, and he was a well-known writer. Adams, actually, he had read what he wrote. He wrote the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom and also the Charter to the University of Virginia. Two of his greatest works, the ones he was most proud of. And Adams realized he is an up-and-coming philosopher, and he also could read people. Jefferson didn't like Congress. He didn't like the debate. He didn't like speaking in public. He's pretty introverted. And so Adams asked for Jefferson to be included in this. And the reason why is, yes, he knew Jefferson was very talented, but the other thing is this. He and Franklin, but also Sherman and Livingston, they wanted to debate on the floor of Independence Hall. They wanted to go to City Tavern and eat and debate. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to be stuck in a little tiny room writing this document by candlelight. They thought, yeah, the document will mean something, but what really matters is what we debate. So, Adams and Franklin went to Jefferson. And remember, Jefferson doesn't really talk much, pretty quiet, but they went to Jefferson and said, you know, Thomas, you're so much smarter than us. You write so much better. You have gifts we'll never have. You really can write down what we need to be said. We could never match you. Would you be willing to write the first draft? And what did Jefferson do? You're right. I am smarter. I am brilliant. And it worked. Jefferson sat in a little room and wrote it while they went and did what they wanted to do. Now, you could argue it was a good choice, but also, yeah, pretty tricky. And you can go to this little room as part of the historical park there, just this little tiny room in this boarding house. And so he wrote it, he'd write a rough draft, and if you go to the Library of Congress, they have all the rough drafts. And the other four would come in and cross lines out and add words, things like that. But the basic author, the number one author is Jefferson, but it really is a collaborative effort. If I say to you, who wrote the Declaration of Independence? I'll just add like a bonus question down the road. That would be, I'm looking for the main author, Jefferson. But they all did. Like we do it for the Constitution, and I'll say, who's the father of the Constitution? It's James Madison. Yet many different people wrote it. So that's the kind of thing here that we're looking at. So Jefferson on his tombstone, it has Virginia Statute, the author of the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, Charter for the University of Virginia, and ironically at the bottom, the Declaration of Independence. That's what he wanted. So they wrote it, they declared independence, the document was not ready. All the members of Congress, almost all of them went home. John Hancock, and Hancock was a what? What made him a patriot? He did what to make a living? He smuggled. Hancock was still there. So when they got the document, Hancock signed it. And that's why Hancock's signature is big, because he beat the gavel. He's organized the meeting. It's called the President of the Congress. So he signed it, and then that's it. But did I mention yesterday, I think the bell rang about the handbill, the white handbill? That white handbill, that's what they call them. See that white document above the window? That is a copy of what they sent out to all the cities of the colonies, basically announcing, by the way, we're now the United States. And most people are like, really? That's how they found out. They sent out that document, and that's why it's only signed by John Hancock. The rest of them haven't signed it yet. But on top it says in Congress, July 4th, because that's when the document was ready. Thus, July 4th. This is the original Declaration of Independence. The real one. Oh, sure, you might go to the National Archives and then this little bomb shelter, or I'm sorry, bulletproof glass case that goes down every night into a bomb shelter. They say that's a Declaration of Independence. No, this is the real one. The real one. This guy on the street, he looked really honest in Washington, D.C. This was 20 years ago. Told me. He has the real one. He looked honest, so I have it. I bought it. How do we know it's the real one?
It's been signed.
Well, not as it's signed, but it's got the original 1776 lamination. Yeah. And John Adams put his finger through it, right? So we know it's real. So you go see the fake one, you go look at it, stand in line and look for about 2 seconds at the, when I was there, they have 2 documents that are always on display, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And then when I was there, it's the Emancipation Proclamation. Has anyone else been there? And you got about 1 second to look at it. You basically look at it as a park ranger with, what a job this would be. Move! And you go to the next one. Move! And that's all you get to see. This is a big line that sneaks out. So, they weren't even done with the document. They're still making corrections about the 8th line up right here. There's a little caret, and they added the word only after Hancock signed it, because they forgot a word. So this was not ready. I should add all documents. So legal, even though this is technically legal, they wanted to act like this is our legal justification, had to be done by a scribe. And that'd be for well over 100 years later. They still were doing it this way, even after the invention of the typewriter. And so the scribe took a long time to write. That's why it's so neat and tiny. Okay, the fake real one is actually about this big. The real one they wrote really small. If you want to look at it, I'll pass it around. And it's right there is where they have the added word. It's actually really hard to read off of that. So when they wrote that down, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, remember, the Declaration of Independence is it's to justify leaving. It's to justify it. And they're not only talking to, and I'll mention this again tomorrow, but they're not only talking to the British. Who else are they talking to? They want help. And what country do they know is still mad at the British? Yes. So they're saying to the French, we mean it. So let's look then at the philosophy. But before we get to that, we got to bring up one word. What is that? Remember in chapter 3, that age of reason. What was that called? Do you remember that term, this era that began at the beginning?
Enlightenment?
Yeah, just at the end of the 17th and the 18th, yes. The founding fathers were childs of the Enlightenment. Sometimes called the age of reason. They were children of the Enlightenment. And they were really not just influenced, overwhelmed by the scientific revolution of the 17th century. Men like Francis Bacon and Galileo and Kepler, Brahe. But the big E was, there's more, but the big one that just blew them away was Newton. Newton had such influence on the Declaration of Independence. You think about Newton, you think about the Principia Mathematica, where he laid out calculus. If you like calculus, anybody like calculus? Anybody dislike calculus? Anybody afraid of calculus? Blame Newton. Well, Newton, there's others too, but Newton laid out, in fact,
Well, shoes for
it is a stretch. So, Newton laid out, this is the way people look at it when they look at Newton. He laid out the mystery of the universe. He showed how mathematical rules, math, could predict the universe. He laid it out. It just blew people away. He mathematically showed why the planets have elliptical orbits and didn't fly off into the ether. He showed it. And this would be proven by observation not only of planets, but comets that would come in over the next 100 years afterwards. And he blew people away. The universe is not this random place that is being dictated by rules from above or some mystical power, or the planets aren't on glass spheres that orbit each other. Yes, that's what they believe, big glass spheres in the universe. Because you have to see through them to see the stars, right? And so, no, they all stick together. This is the theory of gravity. And 99.99% of the time, it works. To that 0.01% makes it crazy, but that's another story. If you can decide this, wow, and I got to be honest, once again, this just blew people's minds. Just blew them away. If they can come up with mathematical formulas for the universe, why can't people come up with, so this comes to the Enlightenment, natural laws that will dictate not just the universe, but society, government, economics. That's where you get this wave of philosophers, most famous being John Locke, who kind of right in the beginning of it, all the way through there to Voltaire, Rousseau. Oh my goodness, the guy who did the dictionary. You'll come to me in a second. It is no coincidence that this guy, who always looks north, have you noticed? Always. Adam Smith would write The Wealth of Nations, which would set aside at least the first kind of compiling the ideas of the market and what we were soon going to call capitalism. We're not yet the capitalism. What's what?
That dude standing right there, that the same person.
No, that's Ben Franklin. He went by dude. He's not a dude. What's a dude? A dude is somebody who is a city slicker who wants to act like a cowboy. So they would go and they wear chaps and cowboy boots and a hat and act like a cowboy. That's where the term comes from. That's a dude. Dude. So now back to this. So why not do it for society? So the founding fathers were children of the Enlightenment, and they said we can make our own rules. We as humans. So the Enlightenment is another term. This actually comes from the Renaissance before that, but it fits. Humanism. We will dictate our own fate. Those are terrible ends, but that's the way I wanted to do it as a human in charge of my own fate. Humanism. And so, let's get to the document then. Setting the stage up for the Enlightenment. They're children of the Enlightenment. So, I don't have the copy in front of me. Who would like to read first? I'm looking for a volunteer to read the Declaration of Independence. Just a little bit, so we'll kind of pass it around. Who would like to read first? Any volunteer? Do I get a volunteer, somebody? Yeah, but where are you going? Did you volunteer? Huh? Sure. Sure, okay, you read. By the way, this is a great beginning.
Right here.
Yeah, the beginning.
Just making sure.
This is a great beginning. And all essays should start with a wonderful beginning like this. Just grab people. Now, being honest. Do you know how hard it is to come up with a beginning of an essay that really grabs you? Do not worry about it. Just come up with a sentence and do your best. This is great. Jefferson, go.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to this separation.
Stop right there. Perfect place to stop. Okay. So, we're talking about the philosophy here. And the first thing this does is, it just basically says, we have to justify. We are meaning. We have real reasons. We just weren't mad one day and decided to revolt. Or we're not just lunatics who want to start a war. We have real concrete reasons. And, did you catch that in there? The laws of nature and nature's God. Did you catch that term? Enlightenment. There's a natural law, just like the mathematical formula. So, he's setting the stage for this. And yes, it's about the United States, but you notice the first part, it's not about the United States or the colonies or Britain until the very end of that second paragraph. So, now we get to the meat of the philosophy. And there are three main points. Who would like to read the next point first? And I, once again, will stop you gently. Yeah.
Can we write on this?
Sure, go ahead. And thank you for volunteering to read. To read, go ahead.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Good, right there. We hold these truths to be self-evident. By the way, no, very few people thought this was self-evident. He's one of those, everybody agrees with me, when in fact, nobody really agreed with him. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So here's the first of three big points of the philosophy, equality. And by the way, most people disagree. And they disagreed amongst the 5 men who wrote it. When let's go with Adams. When Adam was looking through this and saw all men are created equal, what kind of men was Adam thinking about?
White men.
What's that?
White men.
Not just all white men, only certain white men. White men with what?
Property.
With property, money, wealth. He didn't look at it as white men with property are like somehow like a noble birth. He just saw it as white men with property have more to lose if you have a thing like a revolution. White men without property don't have anything to lose. Now, I got to be clear about it. That is kind of garbage. They have a lot to lose, like their whole future, maybe their life. But anyways, that's the way Adams looked at it. Jefferson was seen as quite radical. When he saw this as all men are created equal, what men? What people? All white men. Now, that might not seem like a huge thing. Remember, they're forgetting the vast majority of people in the world. But that's still a big step. Jefferson was seen as radical, that white men, even if they didn't have property, have rights. And it's one of these, it's frustrating. And looking back, it seems, like, how could you forget people? But sometimes there's going to be baby steps. Sometimes you have to get there. Now, what that means is people have to fight for it. It's not really given. But that is a still major step, yeah.
The first one was
Mm-hmm.
Were they both slave owners?
No, Adams didn't own slaves. In fact, Adams was uncomfortable with slavery. Jefferson had overturned the slaves.
So John Adams was uncomfortable with slavery, but he still felt that white men with land were.
So you have this weird, it's kind of a contradiction, isn't it? Jefferson thought people had more rights, yet he still wanted slavery. Adams thought there should be some people on top, the people with property, because there must be something, they must be smarter, better, that's why they have the property. Now, it doesn't quite work that way, but that's the thinking. But then what the heck is equality? We say all men are created equal. You've all heard that. What does that even mean? By the way, men, back then they would have meant men. When I was a youth growing up, people would say like mankind, and more they would say mankind actually is meaning what? Say it again.
Everybody.
Yeah, humankind. And that's kind of going away, but I still do it sometimes because that's what I grew up with, people saying it all the time. All men are created equal, and thinking that meant all people. When it should have, more appropriately, to really understand, we're talking about more and more people start to believe that all humans have these rights. I'm going to be clear about it. Not everyone agrees with that. But that is becoming more and more accepted. Remember what I told you, this document is meant to grow. So they have rights, but here's where it gets complex. Equality can't be defined. To Jefferson's point of view, there are 2 basic types of equality. Not everyone's going to be exactly equal. 5'8", 150 pounds, etc., something like that. That's not going to happen. But he thought 2 things. First off, this tyrant, the king, people with wealth, or they have a title nobility. They thought they could do anything they wanted and not be held accountable. So when he looked at it, it was, no, everybody's going to be held accountable by the people. Therefore, it's equality under the what? What holds you accountable for your actions? Law. Which are government, the people decide laws, and sometimes laws are fair or not fair, that's another argument, but equality under the law. And the other thing is, no, we can't all do the same thing. But Jefferson's ideal world, remember what I told you, this is a goal. His ideal world would be that everybody would have the chance. That's why the founding fathers did not want titled nobility. You notice there's no dukes or knights or barons. They wanted the idea that everybody started at about the same place and you could go as far as you're capable. So that's equality of opportunity. Now, I repeat, this is a goal. This has never really happened. There are vast differences for equality under the law. I mean, just compare what happens about people with similar convictions for a crime, which is supposed to be crime, law effect or a law applied to everybody. So people with more wealth and power and fame certainly get off with less punishments than people who don't have that power or fame. It's really noticeable. So you probably can think of examples of it. But opportunity, we see it more. What does that even mean, equality of opportunity? We all can just do something, but can you really? And now I have to give you an example of this because I want to show you a couple different things. First off, about how complex it is to really define what equality of opportunity or any of these rights are, or I'm sorry, any of these ideas are. And secondly, how do you achieve a goal like this if you can't even define exactly what it is? And I'll give you an example. All of you are probably thinking about going to college. College is significantly more expensive for you than it was for me when I was your age. And over the last 30 years, the cost of college has gone up about 20 times faster than inflation. So how prices go up, college has been going up 20 times faster than the price for other goods. And that was a conscious decision by, well, the government, and therefore the people who voted them in, to not allocate taxes and not pay for it. Let me rephrase that. To not have them pay for it. Who will pay for it? If you decide to go to college, you will pay for it. So it's basically, public education, we have decided from kindergarten to, well, it used to be just first, but now kindergarten in Montana through high school. We decided as a society that we will all pay for education, to give everybody that opportunity to have that, no matter what your wealth is. That ends it next year. Just ends. And we decided after that, good luck. That's why it's so expensive. Now you can make an argument, that's good, no, work harder, or that's bad, it's unfair. That's a different argument. But do you see how complex it is right now? Think about opportunity. So one of the things they talked about here is, why should we follow a king? Because a king by luck of birth became king. What about somebody because of their birth was born with wealth and somebody was born without wealth? Think about what that means for opportunity. If you're born to wealth, and it happens, there are people like that, it doesn't mean they're good or bad. This is not a value judgment. But think about what that does for that. Think about your choices. You go to, the difference between colleges is actually incredibly marginal, incredibly small between the so-called good or bad ones. But there's really not bad ones. But you go to college. If you have more wealth, access to wealth, can't you go for a couple years and decide, I'm not sure I want to major, I'm going to switch majors. I'm going to go have another degree. I'm just going to take other classes. I'm going to take a quarter off and see the world and become, not only have fun, but also become more culturally aware, and that will help me with school the rest of my life. You have a lot of opportunities. You don't like your major, you can go back. If you have no wealth, you always know you have a second chance, or a third chance, or a fourth chance. That's huge, isn't it? That's huge. If you don't have wealth, what happens? How many choices do you have, especially as college gets more expensive? One. You mentioned, round up the money. Get just enough to do it, just enough. And what happens? You better not make a mistake. And by the way, if you don't have one choice, are you going to take any risk? You see the issue there? No value judgment, who's better or worse, but that is a difference in opportunity. And the reason I'm telling you that is, it is complex to decide that. And it's also really hard to see. I mean, because you might get in a situation where people born into wealth think, I earned this. I mean, you did or didn't, but no, people work really hard. It's very complex in life, as we see in the class all the time. That's why I want to talk about that. These are hard to define. These are hard to get here. Remember when I said a goal? We might have different goals. I should have. Everything I just told you, that's politics. These are political decisions. And why were political decisions like that made? People between the age of 18 and 30 don't vote. So, who cares? Just telling you the way it is right now. They don't vote. So, two, speaking of this, we have equality, which means what? Everybody has access to something. Who would like to read next? Who the Lillian read next? Who would read? Maddie, you have your hand up? Do it.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Good, right there. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Before we get to that, though, unalienable rights. I should just erase this. Does everyone have this? Know what I mean by that? So if I ask equality for a short ID, you get what I want? And about this, and the effect is, the idea of equality is, besides business agreement, but also that we have unalienable rights. So unalienable rights. What does unalienable mean? From flying saucers. Yes. Alien invaders came early again. I still have that book. There's a whole belief that aliens came and influenced society. Yes, charity of the gods. It's pretty fun. Okay, so what's an alien? Yes,
That it can't be changed by people outside?
exactly. So it can't, not outside of you. So it can't be changed. It can't be taken away.
Like other countries.
Or even other people. It can't be taken away unless you choose it. So it's your rights, you have them, and everybody has them. You notice life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the laws, they're pretty vague, aren't they? Once again, it gets back to that same thing about opportunity, right? So let's go through the rights. Everyone has them. Oh, almost forgot something. Who gave you these rights? What did it say in the document? The creator. And that word really meant something to these enlightened authors. Don't think enlightenment, like when I say enlightened, like they're intelligent. I mean as in they believe in enlightenment. So there's a philosophy that came out of this called deism. Some of you might know this. Who knows this? You know deism? No deist in here? It's very much influenced by Newton. And what these philosophers looked at the universe and saw, okay, so we have these mathematical laws that decide the entire universe, orbit, everything. They're limited view of the universe, but so it all worked. The universe, the planets, everything moves because of that. That means people must do the same thing. Therefore, this is like one great machine. In fact, they liken it to the most technical piece of technology at the time, a clock. And so the creator is like a clockmaker. The creator made the planets. The creator did the math, put everything together, did all of that. In fact, a deist looks at it like this, the creator, and it's, what is it? Her, him, it, them. It's the creator. And this is dark. It's not running. Got the planets, did the math, put it all together for everything, and then this is what the creator did, according to deism. Flip the switch, and what happened? The whole thing just worked like clockwork. And then what did the creator do? Sit back and watch their creation. And who decides what happens? The people, humans. And that's deism. We decide our own fate. The creator built this amazing thing for us, and now we decide. It's up to us, the good and the bad things. We are it. Deism, the creator. So the creator is not interacting like a god, like passing judgment, or the gods like other religions, or various religions. Yes.
So what do they think about afterlife?
See, that's the thing. There wouldn't be. To a true deist, that doesn't make sense.
So they think you just die and
Now, to their point of view, they're saying, "Oh, that's to their logical view. That's very logical." Now, of course, people have different beliefs, and but them, it's like, and they have elements of this in everybody. Jefferson was certainly a deist. Washington, who was not there, but he was a deist. In fact, he would never use the term God. It was tradition. They all had to go to the Anglican Church, which is Episcopalian. That's Church of England. He went, but he would never say God. He said creator. Never said God. Because to him, it's flip the switch. Now, that didn't mean that they could not follow the beliefs of different religions. The vast majority of people, it wasn't as religious as it would be about 70 years after this, but were Christians, but by definition, is a deist Christian? No, because Christianity requires a very interactive God. That's where it comes from. And so Jefferson actually who, like the tenets of the Bible, would always have to fight against that he wasn't Christian. In fact, he wrote a Bible without the miracles because he thought that was a deist Bible. Of course, what's a miracle? Isn't that up to your own interpretation? But still, it's a different point of view. So they're deists. But the point is, we decide. It's us. The Creator gave it to us at creation, and she decided this is it, and boom, we move on. Now look at Tobias Funke back there. Okay, so what's the number one right? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's just spell a line. What's the first right? Begins with an L. Life. What's the right to life? Let's say it again. But you know, plants have life and they can die. I mean, just cows, chickens, slaves. That's exactly right. It's not just life, it's having independence over your life. That's life. Independence. Doesn't that kind of fit in? Remember the whole thing about who's going to control at the Boston Tea Party? Doesn't that fit in then? This fits in. It's very consistent thinking. What's the next right? What's liberty? A better question is, what word, when I say liberty, you think of what word probably? Yeah. Very good. That actually has something in the Statue of Liberty too, but who made the Statue of Liberty?
The French.
Yeah, the French. I'll tell you my Statue of Liberty story when we get there. I'm a very good one. But thank you, I enjoyed that. You get +1 in your notes. Freedom! But that's not it. Freedom implies you can do what? Do whatever you want. No, you can't do whatever you want. But the problem is, what actually decides what you do? But laws are just you choose to follow them or not, don't you? Huh? And what decides choices? What's that little voice in your head? Freedom of conscience. Yes. Freedom of conscience. That little voice in your head that decides right or wrong. Some people it's very strong, some people unfortunately it is not. But what makes you decide whether or not, I mean, right now, I mean, you all technically could all just storm out the door, couldn't you? No, you couldn't overpower me, so wouldn't you try. But in another classroom, no. Couldn't you? But you've made a conscious decision. You have to stay doing this what we're supposed to do. You know, we can't leave till the bell rings, you got to go to class. You know, you might get in trouble. You also might think, shockingly, you might be learning something and want to stay. But that's the point. You make that choice. There's a reason you don't walk up to people and hit them with bricks. You've made a choice, right? You have a conscious decision. It's not the law. You weigh an option. Boy, they really deserve, by the way, you might know what this word means. Backflapping guy, I can't see. That means a face that deserves to be punched. Germans have words for everything. I love German. But there might be people you want to punch. But you don't do it, do you? I know. And the best part is, I said that last word too. And everyone did the same. I looked around like, I'd love to punch you. But no. So, but that's freedom of conscience. We have that. You don't have freedom of conscience unless you have independence. And lastly, what was it? Now, this is kind of weird. John Locke originally put down the pursuit of property. And it's a little more complex than what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to give you the basic element of it. Property implies just material wealth. And to future philosophers, they looked at it and said, no, there's something more. At least we want to act like we're more than just trying to get rich. And not everyone has wealth. That was kind of Locke's problem. He played everybody as they have wealth. Most people don't have a lot of wealth. What is it? Three families in the United States have more wealth than the bottom 50% today. That's today. So most people have virtually nothing. But they do actually have something. Now, that's also politics, and that's another story for down the road. Has anyone ever heard that stat before? Did that shock anybody? Yeah, 3 families have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the entire country. Than the bottom about 170 million people. 3 families.
What 3 families?
Waltons, who else?
S.C. Johnson.
The Savage have a bunch, but they're not, and so they're huge. And same with the Koch family. But it used to be other families, but now it's Bezos. Bezos for families. Jeff Bezos.
That makes sense.
What's amazing is Amazon never really makes money, but somehow he makes money. That's another story. I'll tell you about capitalism right now. But back to this then. Pursuit. That's a weird way to write property. What's your most valuable property? No, seriously, what is the thing that's the most valuable to you that nobody else owns, especially of independence and freedom of conscience, and nobody can take it away? What? Okay, the heart is important, but you're on the right track.
You could sell
Actually,
it.
yeah. The skin's important.
Your conscience will die.
And your conscience. I mean, all these are really important. But think about something of value that you can use. Which you can use your arm on that, but all they relate.
Thoughts.
Thoughts work, they work. You could use those for something to survive, to create music, to create art, to create wealth, anything you want. What is it? No, money. Money is something that gets you, it allows you to get money. And money is transit, it can go away. Huh?
Hard work.
Could be. Everyone's probably thinking something to this line. Think about it this way. What allows you to do what you want? Ideally, at least try to do what you want. And it could be to accumulate wealth or any number of things. To be who you want to be. It's your forehead. No. It is your mind, your hands, your heart, everything else. It's your abilities. That is your most important asset. What you can do. And so the pursuit of happiness is you can go as far as what? Your abilities and potential take you. It's your ability. And so when you say heart, you see a bunch of these different things. Aren't they all different forms of ability? And your pursuit of happiness ideally would be you can try to go as far, all things being equal. Remember that whole opportunity thing gets in the way. As long as you don't do what? What if your greatest ability is, remember the brick in the head? You hit people with the back of the head with a brick and they take their money. I'm really good at it. That is my best ability. I can sneak up, no one hears me, and I'm gone. What have I just infringed upon? Literally. Not the law, because this isn't law. We're on the right track.
The rights.
Exactly. As long as you don't infringe on others' rights, which that's why laws are created. As long as you don't infringe on others' rights, which isn't that kind of hard to define. That's why these are goals. And what they're saying is the British didn't allow us to have these. So with that, let's get the last little bit. I know the bell's about ready to ring, but we have to get there. So if I say rights, do we get it? Wouldn't that be a great short ID question? Right? Right? Hint? Lastly, number 3. And this comes directly from John Locke. And future philosophers will call this a social contract, even though he didn't. Actually, the term comes from Rousseau, but that's another story. John Locke. And I know the bell's about ready to ring, but let's get to this last point. Who would like to read after happiness? I'm looking for a volunteer. Nobody? Yeah, go ahead, Libby.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, driving their powers from the consent of the government.
Right there. So the social contract is this. Government, here's the contract. Government, they get their power from whom? Who gives them the power? The people. Power from the people. Even if it's a dictator, the dictator has to convince people to allow them to say it. Now, they might do that through the point of a gun, but still, people have the power. And ideally, Governments are created to secure what? Rights. And even though I know the ball's about ready to rain, but let's just get this real quick then, because you can guess what's coming, can't you? What if government infringes on rights?
Change the.
Exactly. That's the contract. Change government. That's the contract. The people give up a little bit of their independence, their freedom of, their liberty. They give a little bit of their ability to do whatever it might be in return to the government, in return to secure rights. But if government takes away rights, change the government. That could be a violent revolution. It could be a change the constitution of a country. It could be an election. Is that good?
Yes.
By the way, isn't that pretty amazing? I went through the philosophy, and I hope you probably understood the basics, but hopefully I hope you understand it more. All that, how many words did you use? Isn't that brilliant? That's brilliance. That's true brilliance. Oh, by the way, then wouldn't social contract be a good short ID question? So contract, talk about this. And what was the result of this? That would be used for the United States to justify what? Revolutionary War. And that's a short ID. You explain what it is, say that led to the revolution, boom. Oh, if anybody, you can keep it if you want, but if you want to give me, if you didn't write on it, go and give me the Declaration of Independence and keep it. Keep it if you want. I hope you like. I think the Declaration of Independence is really cool.
So I didn't turn it in. And then,
Why not? And then you were late. You were late one day.
Yeah.
And then you weren't
missed-
here.
Yes.
Not a big deal. And you got it in and. Oh God! Now I got to do. Platoon.
No, I work in the hospital.
Platoon.
No way.
Oh, and the 30th. Yeah. Ah, you broke it. Where are you going? Can you bring me anything? What do we get from Minnesota? Snow? All right, remind me again, we should be doing the Federalist era, getting to Jefferson. And so I'll have a better idea. There'll be some things we have to do, but I'll have a better idea exactly about it.
Okay. So
Just,
what
but thank you for reminding me of a long weekend too. And you're getting like 3 weeks later, you get another 4-day weekend. You beautiful. All right, just remind me.
when we're gonna be gone, how many days before?
Hey, what do we do at
What's that?
the test meeting?
When we're gonna be gone, how many days before?
Before the what? I misunderstood you. What?
So when we're gonna be gone?
Yeah.
How many days before then?
Well, about a week.
A week. Okay, sounds good.
And the thing about it is that I might not know exactly, but I have a pretty good idea.
Yes. Thank you. Anyway, instructions.
And look, my Russian propaganda calendar fell. Yes. Oh, I did start writing, and I just got to get.
I was looking at it and I just saw that it says you have
Yeah, I know. Promise. Because they went somewhere. She's a JV. And she got.
If it is for a scholarship, I'll include that. I was writing out right now. Eventually, in my class, got to know I go by name. And I'm like, okay.
First,
What's that?
I
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, people respect those. That means that you want.
That's the reason
You're gonna go so far.
I was more corrupt than the what was that one? The portrait. What was it? The cabin. What was that?
I gotta need a new book for my calendar.
It's too high for him.
I'm really sad. And this is like my favorite calendar. It's all old. It's Soviet propaganda. It's really cool.
Put
Anybody has a note, please put it on that desk right there.
I might not be able to watch it. I just don't do well with like people.
There is some blood. It's not. There's blood.
Okay.
And this shows it.
Yeah, so
If there's
it's,
an issue,
can I just wait it out and see if it's, okay, thank you.
and most of it isn't. you know,
Okay.
but there are a few like they show in combat or something happens. If there's an issue.
It's not like in chapter 2 because that movie made me want to have
Yeah,
It wasn't good, it was just gross.
yes. You're in trouble. Yes. Yeah. So you don't want to see it? Okay. Okay. So I do have something for you to do. Okay, sounds good. And so for both of you, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, put it right there. And so as soon as we get started, I'm gonna put it on my website. You go to the website, Question Topics of Vietnam. You have to watch that Vietnam War series and watch that and just basically all I want you to do is kind of give you an outline of what one's gonna be on the initial tactics of war, and one's gonna be on a place called case. What's that? Yeah, and so you can do it two different ways. You can just grab one of the little laptops and go up the hall and watch it if you want, or go up to the library. Okay, I'll give you both a pass. Quick. Anybody else not have this and need y'all turn? No, we're not turning right away. We got about 15 minutes. Everyone go take your notes out. I got one little bit to finish.
Weapons.
Weapons, take out your notes and go from there.
Are we gonna have one of your sheets of paper to answer questions about the two?
Yes.